right, let's go to Monday night. We got the Eagles at the Bucs. The Eagles are favored by 4.5 on the road. The total is 46. That's at 7:15 Eastern on ABC. So that's the first of the two Monday Night Football games, and also the top two teams in terms of your luck rankings.
Yeah, so the Eagles are the luckiest team so far, and the Buccaneers are the second luckiest team so far. So I guess whoever wins this game, it's safe to say they will be the leader in luck rankings come week 4. But it also happens that these two teams have been lucky because they've been scoring way above expectations. So week 3 is when we start to really look at our luck total ratings. And this has the lowest rating for a luck total, meaning it's showing the most value in the under with a minus 11 rating. So you had mentioned that Vegas, Pittsburgh was your favorite total of the week. I'll let you have that for Convince Me. Let me have this under for Convince Me. This is my favorite under. Plus, Adrian Hill is reffing this game, and I will get Chad to join me on Adrian Hill under at some point. Last week, that Jags-Chiefs game, there was like 6 holding calls, and it was a beautiful, beautiful game to have the under 51. So maybe I can convince Chad with this one, but I love the under in this game.
Yeah, the Chiefs under is another one I think is popping on the luck totals because their defense is a lot better.
Oh yeah,
yeah, as far as this game, it is interesting because you kind of think of the Eagles and you're like, all right, this team, especially against a shaky team like the Bucs, you think they could score, but yeah, this could be a little bit of a more muted kind of game here. That offense doesn't quite look fully in gear aside from, just hand it to Swift, just kind of run the ball, no get down to the one and push Hurts in. That's kind of what they're doing. But, we got to try to figure out other ways to find value, especially with that, that Bucs run defense is pretty good. So where are you going in the captain spot?
I'm going with Mike Evans here just because, the Eagles secondary has been beatable so far. Granted, if they get Bradbury and, Blankenship back here, that should help. But I'm not shying away from them in a one-game slate. And just Mike Evans has been balling out. He has 6 catches in each game so far, a touchdown in each game, and went off for 171 yards last game. It is a contract year for him, so I bet he keeps this up. But yeah, on this slate, I think Mike Evans is the way to go.
I think Godwin is a superior
tomato with these guys.
Yeah, I think they're both top 20 receivers this week in our rankings. But here's why I like Godwin. Remember last week, who was the guy that balled out for the Vikings? Everyone kind of balled out for the Vikings, but TJ Hawkinson was the guy that got going over the middle of the field. And the Eagles put Avonte Maddox, their slot corner, on injured reserve. So they have their slot corner is going to be a second-year undrafted free agent out of Clemson. Mario Goodrich probably is going to be in the slot. So this is this is just screaming for Godwin to just run roughshod through the middle of that defense. Also, the linebackers are banged up for the Eagles as well. Nakobe Dean and those guys, and you mentioned Blankenship at safety. So that middle of the field is going to be tough. I'd rather test the middle of the field with Godwin than, have potentially deal with, some Slay or, if Bradbury's back. But I do think the Eagles are weakest up the middle. So I think Godwin is the best bet for Tampa Bay receiving this week. Mike Evans is great, top 20 wide receiver as well. But yeah, I'm going Godwin. So we need to get some side action on that. Some who scores more fantasy points.
I would say Godwin clearly has a higher floor. I still think Evans has the higher ceiling. You can't go wrong with either one of these guys. But yeah, if we want to make it interesting, I'm willing to go head to head with you on this.
All right, we'll talk offline on that.
Yeah.
Also I like that. Tampa Bay could potentially be in a trailing game script. This is the Eagles we're talking about. So I can see like a 10 catch, 147 yard type of game for Godwin. Evans, he'll be like 4 for 171 or something. Like he'll do what Devonta Smith did last week. Although they kept confusing me because they were like, Devonta Smith has 2 touchdowns, and I'm like, when did he score another touchdown? like Kirk Herbstreit just be sleepwalking through these non-college.
It is a busy schedule, man.
Yeah, I know, man. Nah, he props to him. He's killing it, doing college, doing NFL. But man, I think at one point he actually said like, "Oh, I forgot this wasn't college." Like he mentioned an NFL stat and then said like the top player in the country or something instead of like in the league.
Yeah.
And then he corrected himself. So this is what we have to deal with on Thursday nights. Which is why I'm glad
I'll still take it though.
Monday. Yeah,
I'll still take
it. We got the doubleheader on Monday. Imagine a Thursday doubleheader on non-Thanksgiving. Oh, that would not.
Don't get me excited over here. I would love that.
Yeah, you like Thursday night football more than most. I'll give you that. All right. Who do you like for value in this Eagles-Bucs game?
Well, I mean, you mentioned TJ Hawkinson going off against the Eagles. Why don't we just go with the Bucs tight end? Let's go with K. Dotton. He is getting a ton of playing time this year. His routes run rate is around 77%, pretty much what we expected. He's coming off a nice 6-catch game, so they are, targeting him. And yeah, the Eagles have been gashed by tight ends. They've allowed 55 yards and a touchdown to each of the starting tight ends they face. Granted, they've been facing better tight ends than K. Dotton, but let's stick with the tight ends against the Eagles here. He's a good value play, at least on the 1-game slate. And then I'm going to go with the tight end on the other side, the much better tight end in Dallas Goedert. I was a bit disappointed. I knew he would probably get the squeaky wheel treatment last game. He kind of did, but he only converted those 6 catches to 22 yards. So we still haven't seen a big game from him yet. Plus, I think we could see A.J. Brown get the squeaky wheel treatment this game after his antics on the sideline last game. He was clearly frustrated. But Tampa Bay has used the 4th highest zone rate to begin the year. So that's typically when, A.J. Brown gets a downgrade and Goddard gets an upgrade. So I think Goddard could be overlooked here just based on his slow start. So I'm going to stick with him as a value play here.
Yeah, I do think both tight ends are great in this spot. I do think though people need to roster AJ Brown this week. Man zone, whatever. If anything, they'll just give him a bunch of easy targets underneath his zone coverage and treat him like a tight end. So, that was a very public spat. And right after the game, I saw I think that was the top headline on ESPN was the Hurts tells Brown everyone wants to contribute, so I think this is a team that good leadership. I think Jalen Hurts is a good leader, so I think he's gonna want to kind of get out ahead of this. Devontae had the big game, and yes, Devontae is better against zone coverage, but AJ Brown, you could still he's very, very one of the top 10, 15 most talented receivers in the National Football League easily. Top 10. Yeah, so easily you can get him the ball against zone coverage. It's not too difficult. So going with him, and I think DeAndre Swift is probably going to get another week as a feature back. I mean, how do you not give him a big workload after what he did? I mean, I know they want to kind of do the committee thing, and there is some risk here, but this is DFS we're talking about. We want risk. So I think, looking at DeAndre Swift and, 28 carries for a $175 last week, you got a long rest. So he should be, healed up. And, we've seen him kind of get on these runs where he just goes ham for a few games. So I think they ride the hot hand with Swift and give him, start him off with the workload. And unless he does, fumbles or something or does something silly, I think he's going to hold on to it. So I'm not going to sleep on Swift this week, even though Tampa Bay generally does defend the run pretty well. They just haven't seen that many attempts. Teams, they faced the Vikings, and Vikings ran only 14 times with running backs, and then the Bears only ran 11. So they haven't been tested, but that offensive line for the Eagles is probably the best in the NFL. So not as worried about that Bucs front with Swift here. So like Swift and like Brown in the passing game. All right. Who do you like for dart throws?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Kenny Gainwell here. He is questionable with the rib injury. If he suits up, like you said, it does seem like this is DeAndre Swift's backfield right now. I think they should continue just using him as the workhorse back. However, it is the Eagles' backfield. Like you said, this is DFS, so we got to take some gambles here. Plus, like, it's worth pointing out that Rashad Penny is just not a part of this offense. Even though Gainwell was out last game, and like Boston Scott was knocked out of the game, it required DeAndre Swift to have he had like 5 or 6 carries. He had to like go to the sideline because he was winded, and that's when they finally put Rashad Penny in the game. So it could be more of a two-way committee between Gainwell and Swift if Gainwell can return. So it's one of those things. It could devolve into a hot hand sort of situation. So I like Gainwell as a dart throw. And then on the other side, Trey Palmer has yet to catch more than 1 pass in either game, but he's a rookie. And he's not like super talented, but a slow start would be expected for a player like him. Plus, he's more of a boom bust downfield threat as their number 3 wide receiver. So he's going to be very volatile, but we do like that for 1 game slate. So I think it's worth sprinkling some Trey Palmer. He is definitely like a 50-yard touchdown candidate. And we love those for these 1 game slate. So I'm going to have some Trey Palmer here as well.
Yeah, Trey Palmer is, a guy that was kind of watching coming out of the preseason because the Bucs, really don't have a third receiver. So I think that
after the Russell Gage injury, yeah,
exactly,
wide open.
Yeah, it is wide open. So I do want to talk about some of those guys, but I want to start off with Sean Tucker for the Bucs. He has at least 7 touches in both of the first 2 games, and both of his first 2 games as a rookie out of Cuse. His snap rate increased from 15% in week 1 to 24% in week 2. So I do think he'll be that change of pace to Rachaad White. If there's an injury or anything like that, you come up big, but there's a chance he gets another 5 to 8 touches in this game because you had Chase Edmonds go on injured reserve, and Edmonds was kind of splitting that number 2 role behind Rachaad White. So like Sean Tucker, and the Bucs, I think it's interesting because Palmer last week ran a route on 38% of the dropbacks, and Devin Tompkins was at 43%. So I think Tompkins is interesting as well, and Rakim Jarrett also ran around on 27%. He's been the 5th guy in the pecking order, though, both weeks. But Tompkins is interesting because he looked good in week 1, and then his snaps increased in week 2. So in a game where, again, the Bucs might be trailing, some weird things could happen. Now, Tompkins didn't make any catches last week, so he'll be super low owned, I bet. He did get a rushing attempt for 11 yards. So that shows you that they do want to put the ball in his hands. So Tompkins is a guy that I'll be looking at as a dart throw. And on the Eagles side, I think Zacchaeus is interesting in this one. I know Quez got a little banged up in week 2, but Zacchaeus is a much better player against zone coverage than against man. And also, Quez is the guy that is better against man because he's got the speed, can go downfield and run away from certain corners. But in this one, even if Quez is healthy, I do think Zacchaeus might see a little bit of an uptick because he's just a better receiver, to go against this type of defense. So he's another one that he hasn't had a catch yet this year. He's barely played. So, but he is their number 4, and I do think he could mix in in that number 3 role a little bit this week. So if you're doing some Jalen Hurts stacks, or you just need a cheap guy to kind of fill out lineups, I think Zacchaeus is an intriguing one because there's a lot of dart throws in this game. So you want to try to get the ones that really are kind of a little more off the radar. So Zacchaeus kind of fits the bill here.
Yeah, I love the Sean Tucker call, especially for the 1 game slate. I think at some point, Rachaad White did look better last week, but at some point Tucker could overtake him as the early down back, and the Bucs have been leaning on the run game a lot more this year. So yeah, this could be the game. Who knows where Tucker overtakes him. I think, either way, White will probably dominate passing down work all season, but Tucker's solid. Like, he could have been a 4th or 5th round pick, but due to his heart condition, which turned out to be okay, that's why he went undrafted, but he's very, very talented.
Yeah, and another guy that really hasn't gotten it going yet, just what is it, 13 carries for 22 yards and 2 catches for 9. So I mean that maybe that's a bad sign. Maybe he's just
he's getting eased in. He's a rookie. I mean, it's just well, Rachaad White didn't have a good week 1 either. Like I said, he turned it on last week, but this could be more of a fluid situation than I think people realize.
Yeah, I mean, I just when you carry 8 times for 7 yards against the Bears, I'm always going to be able to worry. But I love the usage and I love the player. I think he's a good player. So hopefully he gets off the schneid this week. But I like him. All right, let's go to the final game. This is at 8:15 Eastern on ESPN. The Rams at the Cincinnati Bengals. Who you got in the? Let me give you the spread first. The Bengals are favored by 2.5. Looks like Burrow's going to miss this one. The total is 43.5. This is 8:15 Eastern on ESPN. What do you like in the captain spot?
So this game, I think there's a ton of great options for the captain slot, but I'm going to have to go with Kyren Williams here. This is his backfield now, finally. He played 95% of the snaps last week. He is a true workhorse back. At least right now, he's getting all the passing down work, and he's a solid pass catching back. And he's the first back that Stafford has been willing to target. He got 6 catches last week. He's getting all the goal line work. They actually traded away Cam Akers this time to the Minnesota Vikings. So I think we could trust Sean McVay for now, but I'm still tainted from last season. Like, it wouldn't be shocked if he now uses Ronnie Rivers as lead back. Who the hell knows what McVay's going to do? But I think it
was a Cam Akers beef. I think it was a Cam Akers beef, not a Sean McVay thing.
Either way.
Yeah.
Kyren Williams is lead back now. I think I can finally say that. So I got to go with him in the captain slot. This could be a good game script for him. He's one of those backs where it could be a leading game script, trailing run. It doesn't matter. He's a great player.
Yeah, he's not coming off the field. They have Ronnie Rivers, Royce Freeman, and Zach Evans behind him. Like he's absolutely, he's my RB3 this week. Jesus, you laugh, but like.
I mean, it warms my heart that nine months ago I had egg on my face for this guy, but finally, they're getting him a shot.
Yeah. No, it's all about usage for running backs, and I think he's played well. So I think McVay. Like I really think that was an Akers issue. I mean, it's no surprise that Akers carries 22 times for 29 yards and then gets deactivated and traded. I mean, we saw this last time where he would have like a couple of tough, rough games and McVay would keep feeding him and it just didn't work, and he just hasn't been quite right outside of that, month and a half stretch in late last year. He just hasn't been right since that Achilles injury. So
and even week 1, Kyren was the lead back. And then they just gave Akers a ton of attempts in the second half, sort of just to ice the game because they were up so much. So it was leading into the season. Yeah, something was up with Akers. This is the second time they tried to trade him, so something's going on there. But
he can't gain yards. That's what's up.
That too, that's you kind of want that.
He can't gain yards. He doesn't gain yards very often. Like I don't know. He had that great month and a half, and
that's what I'm saying. He was good at the end of last year. He was the RB2 in fantasy. So he did look good at the end of last year, but I just have to wonder if that Achilles injury just really did set him back, because he was very talented. He was second round pick, so there's still hope. Maybe he can leapfrog Alexander Madison. We'll see.
Yeah, Madison look horrible. Like my Madison shares are going up in flames. But I mean, honestly, if they were going to trade for anyone, it's probably the most ideal player for them to trade for, because like Akers is like the one guy that Madison could like easily outplay. Like, you know what I mean? So it's actually, maybe it's not the worst thing.
Yeah, at least it wasn't like Jonathan Taylor.
Right, exactly. I think, that McVay kind of went to more gap scheme this year too. And, Akers had been more of a zone scheme guy, and I just don't think he was hitting the holes right and doing what he had to do. And also don't think he's very happy with sharing the backfield. So I think those are the things that kind of contributed to it. But I do think McVay kind of made his running game more multiple, this year, and I think Akers just couldn't handle it. I'm going Puka Nacua, obviously. I mean, like, what are we doing here? Like, Puka Nacua is, I think, my wide receiver 7. Kyron Williams is my running back 3.
Whew.
These dudes are just not coming off the field, and they are, I mean, along with Tutu Atwell, who we'll get to, they're pretty much this entire offense. And Nacua leads the NFL in catches. That is right. He leads the NFL in catches. No, he's not Cooper Kupp, but he leads the NFL in catches. And why? Because his average at the target is around 9. He's averaging 10.6 yards a catch. So he's catching over 70% of his passes. He's just an efficient guy who's going to gobble up targets, kind of like Cooper Kupp did. You know, Kupp, I think, a little bit of a different player, but at the end of the day, Sean McVay knows how to get these guys in good positions. And, you know, he's like the anti-Matt Canada. You know, guys are always running open. He could kind of take whoever he wants. It doesn't have to be, you know, the most heralded guy. It can be, you know, day 3 picks, and they can have massive success in this offense. And really, you know, Stafford being back is obviously huge. So love Nacua here. Double-digit catches in both of his first 2 NFL games. He's averaging $133. So especially on DraftKings, you know, that bonus is squarely in play, and you're getting the full point for reception. So love him in DraftKings the most, but I think you got to play him or Kyron. I think maybe some contrarian Chase or Higgins, but I mean, this Ram offense has just been a well-oiled machine. So I think they get the ball to their guys. Who do you like for values?
I'm going to go Tyler Higbee here just because he's the forgotten man in this offense. I know a lot of people are starting to drop him in fantasy, and I totally get it. But his routes run rate is still there. It's 83% on the season. There's a chance defenses start putting extra resources on Puka Nacua or Tutu Atwell, Kyron Williams, and Higbee starts getting more open looks going forward. So, you know, I'm a fan of buying low on tight ends if they have a rough couple game stretch and they're still getting, you know, the routes run rate. I'm willing to buy low on them. So give me some Tyler Higbee here. And I'm actually going to go with Jake Browning, assuming that Joe Burrow is ruled out. You know, it's going to be a huge drop-off for the Bengals offense as a whole, but I still like taking Browning in this slate. You know, they're likely going to lean on the run game a bit more, maybe have a more conservative game plan. But Browning does have some solid rushing upside. Like, it wouldn't shock me if he ran 4 or 5 times for 20-plus yards. He does have that sort of rushing upside. He still has one of the best wide receiver trios in the game. And the Rams have been putting up points. So, you know, the Rams could get up, you know, 7+ points here and force the Bengals into a pass-heavy game script. It's not without question here. So I like taking Browning here, even using him in your captain slot. In some spots and stacking him with the, you know, Bengals pass catcher. So I definitely think it's worth investing in Browning here.
Yeah, it would be hilarious if he has the best Bengals quarterback game to date this season.
Would be tough.
I know. That's why it's like this season has been nuts. I mean, you got Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua as your top fantasy plays, and Jake Browning has a chance to outplay.
This feels like preseason still.
Right.
It really does.
It does. Yeah. Especially, but except the Rams never play their guys in preseason. So
they played. I just want to say we saw Puka's first touchdown.
We did.
We were like 10 feet away from it. It was, you know, it was a historical moment. We didn't realize it at the time, but it was historical.
Yeah, man. We had a front and center view to greatness, to the start of greatness. Yeah. Now I just can't wait till Kupp gets back, because now this Rams team, I mean, this NFC is wide open. I mean, the Bucs are 2-0. This Rams team could push for a playoff spot, even with that defense that just lost everybody. So I give McVay, I give, you know, GM a lot of credit for making it work. And speaking of which, a guy that I was always waiting to break out finally has broken out. He is your wide receiver 16 in PPR, ladies and gentlemen, Tutu Atwell. I love him as a player, has speed, but he's not just a gadget guy. He can go deep, or he can be more of like your underneath, you know, guy against some zone coverage. So he can run away from man coverage, has a lot of talent. So I love him as a mid-range play this week. He's averaging 6.5 catches for 98 yards per game, 8.5 targets per game. So, not quite Puka, but if Puka, like, let's say Puka takes a step back or they just sell out or something, Atwell would really be the guy that's next in line. He's jumped Van Jefferson. And we talked about this in the preseason too, because remember, I was like, I want to like Van Jefferson more, but I was kind of being conservative because I'm like, I think he could get jumped by like Atwell and Nakua, and sure enough, Atwell has officially jumped Van Jefferson in terms of the snaps and the production. So love me some Tutu Atwell. And on the other side, got to go with Joe Mixon for the Bengals. I could also see using him in a captain spot if you think, the Bengals are going to kind of have to play a different way with, the backup quarterback. But Mixon, it hasn't been flashy, but he's still here doing what he does, averaging 16 and a half touches per game. His usage in the run game ramped up last week. He got almost all of the carries, still playing about 75% of the snaps. So in a game where you have a backup quarterback, maybe you get some dump offs. And if the Rams are able to score, I really like, maybe you have like a Kyron in the captain spot, Atwell or Nakua, and then you bring it back with Mixon, because I think if the Rams are able to score, like you mentioned, and get up, you probably see a lot of dump offs to Mixon. That's kind of what he's been doing, even last year. Remember when he got his third down role taken away by Pirine, but he was being targeted like 30% of his routes. So he's still putting up like 4 or 5 catches every game. I think this is one of those spots where we could see that again, because it's been a struggle for the Bengals down the field for whatever reason, even with those talented wide receivers. So like Joe Mixon this week. The Rams are allowing 5.3 yards per carry to backfields too. So decent matchup. Nice. Who you got for dart throws?
Well, I am going to go with Van Jefferson. I do agree. He's definitely, the odd man out right now, but he's still seeing, a routes run rate around the 85% range. So he's out there running routes. If Stafford wants to throw him the ball a couple of times, that'd be great. But I don't think he's due for a high volume game of, like 5+ catches here. But he could break loose for a big play or two if the Bengals do attempt to slow down Puka and Tutu. So all it would take for Van is, 1 or 2 big catches here to make a difference and be in the winning lineup for this slate. So we'll definitely have some Van Jefferson shares. And then on the other side, going to go with Irv Smith because, like I said, they might have a more conservative game plan and target players like Tyler Boyd and Irv Smith underneath a little bit more than Browning, chucking it up to T. Higgins downfield. And Irv is average a 75% routes run rate. So he's going to be out there for most of the dropbacks. So, he's been off to a slow start, but he's definitely worth a flyer in this showdown slate.
Yeah, he's running around 80% of the dropbacks. He's in that Hurst role. And, again, downfield has just been a struggle. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But, I could see, the backs and tight ends doing some things for the Bengals this week, especially if the Rams are able to keep humming on offense. I am going. It's slim pickings here. It's for dart throws. Ronnie Rivers, I think, is always going to interest me on a slate like this because Kyron Williams projects to play 90% of the snaps. Kyron Williams is also listed at 5'9", 195. He was a workhorse in college, but he has been more heavily used than he's been in essentially 2 years now. You got to go back to his final year in college. Last time he was getting 20 touches and 20 touches type thing. So I do think there's a chance for an injury or something like that. And if that's the case, I think Rivers will be the next man up. That's what it's been so far. Freeman was elevated. I don't think he really did much of anything. They got Zach Evans too, but he's been a healthy scratch. So Rivers, we did see Rivers get like randomly featured for like a half a game last year at some point. So if McVay is going to be weird, I think Rivers
usually a good bet.
Guy. Yeah. And on the Bengals side, I think the all the backup receivers are interesting because Browning probably works on the second team with these guys. So Trenton Irwin, I think he's the guy that's actually getting snaps. He's intriguing just because, you see this a lot, right? Like a backup quarterback and, the guy he's working with on the second team. That would probably be his number one receiver on the second team, Trenton Irwin. So I like him, but also, it's tough to find a dart throw on this slate because the Rams don't really sub in a lot of guys, and neither do the Bengals. But I don't mind taking a shot at either rookie receiver for the Bengals. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. I never get it right. Andre Iosivas.
Yeah.
And,
he's legit.
Right. Yeah. He looked good in preseason. And Charlie Jones, I had that punt return last week, so he might get some snaps. So, again, time to invest in rookies that haven't done anything yet. This is the perfect time, especially on a dart throw slate. But Browning, his three receivers that he works with every day are Trenton Irwin, Iosivas, and Charlie Jones. So that I think one of these guys could at least get a catch or two in this game. So like those guys, and I don't think people will be on them because they've done jack nothing in the
exactly
except for the Jones in the punt return.
I love that angle, and I'm gonna take that and run with it. Another guy to consider would be Drew Sample. Then, second teamer, but he was his top tight end at Washington, so they go way back. He had Drew Sample, K. Doughton, and Will Disley. Talk about really average tight ends, but he targeted his tight end back then, and Drew Sample, his senior year, was his top tight end. So they have a history. What's that called? The shower narrative. So Drew Sample, if we're going like the backups and former college teammate, could definitely see them, hooking up for, 5-yard touchdown or something like that.
What a time to be alive. We have a showdown slate with the Bengals, and we're not playing Jamar Chase or T. Higgins in the captain's spot. We're playing Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams. We're playing Tutu Atwell is he? Is he outscoring Jamar Chase through 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Many people. Everyone's
Incredible.
outscoring Jamar Chase. Jamar. Oh, geez. I didn't realize he was 53. That's wow. But what a time. And then we're going with all the Bengals backups instead of their starters for value. What a time.
Oh God.
What a time.
I mean, that's what showdown slates are all about, though, if we're being honest.
Yeah. And another rookie before we get out of here, if he's active, because it might have just been because Evans was hurt, but if Chase Brown is active, they got to start giving him some looks too. They really haven't gotten much from Travion Williams, so they're still kind of looking for that, new Samaje Perine. So Brown was active for the first time last week. If he's active again, and another rookie who hasn't done anything yet, that great time to kind of get ahead of it on a slate like this.
Yep.